Hey everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Quentin Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. Today is another jaunt off into the world of artistry, and I'm going to bring you another fine episode of Artistry Appreciation. And for those of you new here who don't know what this is, Artistry Appreciation is where I take a piece of comic art from my personal collection that I own or have owned, and I show you why I think it's so great and why it was something I had to have, and maybe give you a little, help you to get a little appreciation for some fine comic art yourself. So I thank you all for joining me today, and I just want to say that if you like what you hear here, please make sure to drop some likes down there, help out the algorithm. It's always appreciated. Also, if you got any comments on the artwork or anything I say on it here, make sure to drop your comments on there below, because I always like to hear what the folks have to say. That's really important to me. And if you like this, share out some links and bring in some new folks, because I always want to get the subscribers numbers up. And hey, who doesn't love sharing great comic art, right? So that's always a good thing to do. So I appreciate all your guys' support. And today, well, we're going to get into one a very significant piece, I think, of comic art that I own, probably one of the more significant ones that I do own. And if you're wondering what it is, well, my attire should give you some idea of where we're going with this. So it should be a lot of fun, but I think you're going to enjoy it. And so let's get right on into it. And of course, as always, we remove me from the screen, because we don't need to see me, because it's not about me. This is about the art. And we're going to bring that up for you right now. And here we are. It's Detective Comics number 662, page 22, from the Nightfall Saga. As I said, this is going to be one with a significance. So let's get on this. This is by the great Graham Nolan and Scott Hanna. And right here, I'm just going to get right into it here, big this up, and you can see right here, just right from the get-go. I mean, this is the big storyline that everyone remembers from the 90s. Batman facing all his greatest foes, and then having to go down against Bane, get his back broken, and all that stuff, and then the rise of Azrael as Batman. A very significant storyline, probably one of the last big, what I say, successful event storylines that I can remember in the day there. So it's a very significant story, and this page in particular, I think, is really a standout because of what it represents. Now, as you can see here, you see a beaten and battered and bedraggled Batman, not something you're used to seeing very much. And you see the great prose from writer Chuck Mr. Action Dixon here. The firefighters are here. The ones that are out on strike anyway, they have it all in hand. 8 Down, Firefly, Zaz, Film Freak, The Hatter, Cavalier, Amagadelia, Sturrock, Poison Ivy, mostly second stringers, and they nearly took me out. The really dangerous ones are still on the street. Scarecrow, Riddler, Joker. How can I stand against them when I can't even stand up? Who will stand between Gotham and Bane? So it's the whole point of the story of breaking Batman down. That's what this whole page represents. It's like a key moment, like just kind of signifies everything about the storyline. And I just love the little details in here. Like look at the sweat on his face right here in the first panel. And something else you don't see too much of is look at all the damage on the suit. You see right here, you see it here, all here. I mean, they really, Graham Nolan really goes in to put in the detail to make you see that Batman has been through the literal ringer throughout all this. And again, you can feel the bone weariness of the character. I mean, this shot right here, with the head down and the just sitting there with the arms on his knees. I mean, just it bespeaks directly to what he's feeling right now, and I love that. And I like even in the background, even though it's a little not nearly as detailed as the foregrounds here, but just getting the fire engine in there and the flames. I like that. And then throwing in the monkey, because as you can see, they're here. They're in the Gotham Zoo is where they're at. So it's like there's an escaped monkey running around. Just a nice little detail in there. But to me, the real standout is these last 2 panels. You got, here he is pretty much all in silhouette, and then the close-up of his eye. This is like something I more see along the lines of guys like Larry Stroman. They're known for doing like those extreme close-ups, but here it's done with such effectiveness. You got the fire in the background and the shadow. He's all in shadow, and then the close-up of the eye, and it's almost like there's an enveloping darkness that is encompassing the Dark Knight, just as it is encompassing the viewer. And I like that about it. Again, it speaks right to what the story is all about. And and then of course there's also this fun little thing here. I love this. This is now this down here, folks. None of some instances stuff like this would be stat work, a print out of something that they paste on. But no, this is all artwork. All of this is all hand drawn. So Graham Nolan drew a little Batman head and shoulders right here in the bottom corner. I love that. It's just one of those comic booky touches that you don't see anymore in the books. And this is just it's not one of those things that make it such fun. But I just really love his boldness of his lines. Very strong, very very forceful. Like I said, even in the backgrounds, you can still feel the forcefulness of Nolan's pencil lines. And Hannah, I think, is probably one of the best inkers in the business. Definitely in my mind, top 5 inkers of all time. And here we got I love the little feathering in the shadows like this. Like this here, in here. I just love that soft touch of line work. Just enough, not going overboard, but just enough to get the effect in. I really love that so much. And again, it's just a great page. It's just I love the layout. I like the close-up inset off to the side, so it doesn't interfere with the main thrust of these 4 panels. I love that. Again, these are little details that a lot of people don't think about when you're making comic art. You don't understand. You understand just how much detail. I wonder, is this Dixon who did this layout, or is this Graham Nolan's layout based off of Dixon's script? Because that's something we don't really always know in the reader's side of things. We don't know who's doing exactly how much of the work. We all know the artist is drawing it, and all this this dialogue is definitely all the writer, but laying the page out. I know there are some guys who, when they write their scripts, are very, very detailed in what they want and how they want it laid out. And then there are guys who are much more loose and just leave it up more to the artist to decide how are you going to lay this out. And that's what we see here. I think this is more like collaborative, because I know Dixon and Nolan are like they're best friends basically, and like they understand each other's work and they understand how the other thinks. So I can imagine like this page. Chuck, just gave him a brief synopsis of like, we need Batman beaten and downtrodden with a fire in the background, and then this layout is what Nolan came up with, and I think it's just absolute brilliance. Like I said, it hammers home, the bone weariness of Batman throughout all of this, and is like one of the main thrusts of the story of Nightfall, and it's just all in one page. The emotional thrust of Nightfall is right here for you to see. And I just love, like I said, all the little details, the sweat and the battle damage, the fire, and like I said, and this extreme close up right here, just enveloping darkness, as the story goes on, because it's just getting worse and worse for Batman, and I like how that's presented here. So it's great stuff. And let's get a look at the published version here. You can see here, this is the published version with the colors, and you notice, like I said, like I did our last one when I did Jason Metcalf, I said how the colors that were put on his cover took away some of the detail in Jason's very fine detailed work in the cover. But here again, this shows you when colorists do it right. This is how it works out. It doesn't take anything away from what Nolan and Hannah have done, and it's just like I said, very well done. And even enhancing it, like but by way of like the color choices, like right here with the fire, the orange going into the yellow, it's a choice that it reflects the care and attention that's being paid to what is being done here. And just a really great stuff. And of course, here's our cover by the great Sam Keith. And the funny thing is this is one of only, I think, 2 issues that the cover was not done by Kelly Jones, because Kelly Jones did virtually all the Nightfall covers except for this one and Detective 660, I think. Those are the only 2 he did not do. And so it's kind of funny for me to have a page from one of the only issues that didn't have a Kelly Jones cover. I just think that's really awesome. And then as a little bonus here for you guys, I got this here for you. Let me show you. This is me with inker Scott Hanna from 2024 at the SummerCon, and you can see there he is. You can see right here he signed the art for me. Now I just got to say this, because this really gets to me. When this book came out, I was 19 years old, and Scott Hanna here is inking it, so he's probably older than I was. And yet, if you look at this here, the guy who was still in his teens when the book came out looks older than the guy who was actually inking the book. That is just so wrong on so many levels. I don't know what magic this man has. I mean, you look at him and you think he's probably like what, like maybe like 40, 42. He's more like 62. And it's like, that's just amazing to me that he has that gift. Among the gift of just great ink work, he also has the gift of youth. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what this man did to deserve such great grace, but he got it. I just thought this would be a little fun thing to add in here for you guys because it's just so funny. But yeah, this is just good stuff right here. Like I said, this is just excellent work by Nolan and Hannah. Like I said, they were a great team. Them with Dixon, to me, like that's like this is Batman to me. When I think Batman comics, I think Nolan, and I think Dixon. This is my Batman right here. Whenever I think of Batman comics, these are the guys I think of. They just were such a indelible mark on the comic at the time, like in the early '90s. And it's a standard that I think few could ever try to match today. So great stuff here, excellent work. Again, Nightfall, one of the premier crossover events of all time. I think no one could argue that point. And again, just the beautiful, bold lines and the camera angle choices that Nolan uses in here, and the little fine details that Hannah embellishes without overpowering. Just great stuff. Great visual storytelling. This is what visual storytelling is all about, what you see right here. And so definitely one of my favorites. I was very glad to get this piece when I got it. And I'm sure today it's probably worth a whole hell of a lot more money than I paid at the time. But for me, it's never been about the money. It's always been about the work and just creating great craft. And that, to me, that's what you see when you hear Dixon, Nolan, and Hannah. You're going to get great craft, and that's what we get here. So yeah, definitely Detective Comics 662, Nightfall, classic storyline. Nolan and Hannah at the peak of their powers, just cranking it out like it's just just so easy, and we all know it isn't. So there we go, one in the book for you. A nice Batman page by one of the premier Batman artists of the '90s and maybe even of all time, some would say. And just some great stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed checking this out. I hope you guys saw some sweet art there, and maybe got a little flashbacks, maybe to some stuff you remember in those days. And if you got any comments, please drop them down below. I always want to hear what you got to say. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm on the money about Nolan and Hannah being like one of the premier Bat teams of all time, or do you think this is just I'm totally off base? Let me know down there. And again, thank you all for joining me today. I hope you'll be back for some more stuff, because I will be coming with more very soon. And until next time, take care.